Hello everybody, Chris Grant here again. I decided to get Dorico. I took advantage of the limited time offer for Finale users to acquire the Dorico software by Steinberg. And I watched a bunch of tutorial videos on it over the past week just to see, get a little bit acquainted with it. So I downloaded it last night. It took a while because in addition to the software itself, they have a lot of other, add-on things that it just took, I want to say, over an hour to download. So this is going to be a quick tutorial on some of the basic things that Dorico can do that I've learned so far. And it might be something you're looking into, and this will give you somewhat of an idea of what Dorico is all about. So let's get started. I'm going to go through some of the basics of using the program. So once you get it downloaded and you want to create a project, you hit Create New, and you have these template options. And you could probably create your own template if you want to. But I'm going to use solo piano for right now. And on the side here, you can determine the size of the paper and the font and all that. You can set the time signature. I'll leave it at 4/4. It automatically defaults to 32 bars. So when it opens up, you'll have 32 bars to start off with. You can determine the key signature right here. So we'll leave it at C major and 4/4 time. Then you hit Create Project. And it opens up. So there's different ways you can input notes. In some ways it's similar to Finale. You can enter notes using your mouse. So for instance, if you want to use quarter notes, you have to click on the Start Note Input, or Shift N is the shortcut. And you click on your quarter note, and you'll see this line here, and that's where your first note will show up. So let's say I want to put an F right there. I would click right there, and if I wanted to put an A right there, and if I want to put a C right there, and so on and so forth. So you can enter notes with your mouse. For this demonstration, I'm going to use my MIDI keyboard to enter notes. You can also use an on-screen keyboard. If you click this arrow at the bottom of the screen, you'll see these symbols here, and there's a keyboard symbol or icon. You can click on that, and then you can click on this on-screen keyboard to enter your notes, which Finale did not have this option. And if it was a guitar staff, you could click on the guitar, and there would probably be a fretboard here, and you can enter the notes on the fretboard, and they would appear in the staff. But I'm going to just use my MIDI keyboard to enter notes. So we'll leave it on quarter note, and I will just enter my notes with my keyboard, my MIDI piano keyboard. So we'll do an F, an A, a C, an E, and so on and so forth. If I want to do a G chord or G7, it would be G, B, D, and F. Now, you're going to want to know your shortcuts. It will save a lot of time, which is something I'm going to have to start memorizing. So for instance, the quarter note, well, we'll start with a whole note. On your keyboard, a whole note is 8. So if I wanted to transfer to whole notes right now, I would press the number 8 and then I would enter in my notes. So if I wanted to enter in half notes, it would be 7, and so on and so forth. Quarter notes 6. So use your keyboard if you're going to do a passage, let's say that's going to start with a quarter note, and it's an A, but then there's going to be 2 eighth notes. You would press the number 5, and this will transfer into quarter notes, eighth notes, and then you would do, and then you would go back to 6, and then you would get your quarter notes back, and then if it was a 5, you would have to switch back and forth with the numbers that correspond with the note duration you're trying to get to. So the quicker you learn your shortcuts, the faster this will go. Now, right now, I can input chords as well. If I want to do an A minor chord, and if I want to do a G, so it will input multiple notes at the same time. So what I just showed, you have to be in, you might not be able to see it on the screen, but at the top it says setup, write, engrave, play, print. So you have to be in the right tab to input notes. Now I'm going to go over to this side of the screen where you have these other menu options. So let's say you want to change the clef symbol in the bass clef right here. You would click on Clef tool, and you would click on your treble clef, and it would insert a courtesy treble clef in the measure before. Let's just say you're changing keys. So you would go to this measure, and you would click on the key signature tool, and you would select, let's say you wanted to go to the key of D. You would click on the key of D right here, and it would change the staffs to the key of D. Let's say you wanted to change the meter. You would click on the clef, on the measure you want to change the meter at, and you would click the time signature, and you would select whatever time signature you're going into. Let's say you were going into 3/4. So now that becomes 3/4. And you have your tempo marking. So you would want to put that right here at the very beginning. And they give you all these options right off the bat where you can create your own tempo marking. You could also tap tempo. So if you wanted to do that, it'll tell you how many beats you're tapping right there. So that's 135. Or you could select one of these. Say you were doing 120, and you'd have to look up these terms because they're all in Italian. But you could enter one of these. You could just, and there it is. So you have your dynamics option here, but I'm going to show a shortcut to do dynamics. You would click on the note, and if you do Shift D, you could type in F, enter, and it'll appear in the score. Let's say you want to go down to mezza piano. You would just do shortcut Shift D and put MP, and it would appear in the score. So already I'm starting to learn some of the shortcuts to get the job done faster. So you have all these other ornaments you could add to your score. If you want to enter trills, it gives you a whole list to choose from. Your repeats, holds and pauses, playing techniques, a whole bunch of stuff you can do here to add to your score. If you want to add chord symbols into the score, you click on the chord icon over here, the 3 notes stacked on top of each other, and you click on whatever, the beginning of whatever bar you want to put the chord symbol in, and then you do Shift Q and you type in the name of the chord, which this is a G 7th chord. And if you want to put chord diagrams, guitar chord diagrams in before you do anything, you have to go to Setup, right click on the piano tab right here and go to chord diagrams and select standard guitar tuning. You have all those other options available too, but we'll just stick with standard guitar. Now let's say you don't like this chord symbol. You can go Alt-Shift-Q and it'll give you a whole bunch of options in their library to choose from. So let's say you want to use this chord symbol. It'll insert that one in there. And of course you have the ability to make your own chord symbols, which I'm not going to get into that because it'll take too much time, but it's there. Another thing that I kind of like about Dorico is, to me, playing piano is a lot about fingerings. So you can easily enter fingerings into your score. So let's just say I want to put the fingerings in for these notes. I would click on the note. I would do Shift F, and let's say I wanted to use finger 1. It'll automatically put the fingering there on top of the note. And let's say I wanted to do fingering 3 for this note, Shift F, 3, and so on and so forth. So entering fingerings is pretty quick and easy. It's something that I regard as very important. So the last thing I'm going to get into for this video is kind of getting your score to look the way you want it to look. So let's just say I want the first system to only have 3 measures in it. So at the top of the screen there's an Engrave tab, which you might not be able to see it, but it's there. You click on Engrave, and let's just say I want just 3 measures in my first system. So I would click the bar at the end, the bar line at the end of the third measure, and then I would click Create System Break, and it will just make the first system have 3 bars in it. And let's just say I only want 4 bars in this next system, so I would click that bar line and I would create a system break, and there would only be 4 bars, and so on and so forth. And that's how you would get your score to look the way you want it to look. And I'm not going to get into every little thing because it would be a never-ending video, but this is just the basics. And I'm starting to like Dorico the more I learn it. I think that so far it seems to be as good as Finale. but I still have a lot more to learn. So we'll see if there's any little things that might be different. But that is my tip for this week, and we'll see you next time.